So I want to take you into the study. And once again, not reading from a manuscript, just a little bit of chicken scratch. So we'll see what comes out today. I want to talk to you today a message called By Invite Only. By invite only. Have you ever showed up a place where you were not invited? Come on, just raise your hand. If you ever went, you showed up at a place you were not invited. Okay, a few of you. I got to tell you, when I was in college, I was at Central Bible College. I was studying to be a pastor, but I was a new Christian at the time. So they had a local university there. It was called SMSU, Southern Missouri State University. Well, here was this great start of my preaching life. I would go to Southern Missouri State University frat parties. Thank you, Jesus. I would walk in there, and here's what I would literally do. I'd walk into the party. I'd see a beer or something like that. I'd grab it. I shouldn't even tell this because I might lose my graduation certificate. I'd grab it, and I'd walk, hey, guys, what's happening? And I walked in like I owned the place until they asked me when I pledged for their fraternity. And I was immediately escorted off premise. See, I think what happens is invitations are so powerful, and yet we miss the power of an invitation. Let me ask you this. You ever not been invited to someone's party or wedding that you thought you should have been? Come on, how many of the devil came out of you at that point? I did this for that person, and I went here, and come on now. You in the back, you all lying right now because I know you all done it before. You're literally like, man, I can't believe they did not invite me. Can't believe they didn't invite my kids. From the beginning of the message, I want you to catch something today, and it's important. Divine salvation requires a double invitation. Okay, now I want you to follow me on this. Divine salvation requires a double invitation. Here it is. It's going to pop up on the screen. It is really simple. He invites me, I invite him. He invites me to eternal life forever with the Father, and I invite him into my everyday, ordinary life. It is a double invitation. When Jesus invites me, I must respond to the invitation. I must then invite him back in. It's kind of like the RSVP on an invite. It's that moment where you're saying, God, thank you for the invitation, but in this moment right here, I'm also extending it back to you. I'm inviting you into my everyday, ordinary life, and the reality is, most people do not do that. They don't bring Jesus into the mundane. They want to just bring him into the majestic. They don't bring him into just, well, I'm not saying that we pray and ask Jesus, what tie should I wear to the appointment today? That's not what I'm saying. But is it better to pray, hey, God, give me the right words as I walk into that appointment today? How many times do we rush here, rush there without the right words, without the right thoughts, without the right attitude and check in our heart? Well, Jesus in John chapter 2, he gets invited to a special place. Here's what the scripture says. The next day there was a wedding celebration in the village of Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there. And Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the celebration. Why was Jesus at the wedding? He was invited to be there. He didn't just show up at SM or things. We give Jesus invites into certain parts of our life, but not every part of our life. He was invited. I remember several years ago, Mary and I were invited to a destination wedding in the Bahamas. Come on now. I mean, listen, I had one requirement for this couple who are dear friends of ours. One requirement, it was this: pay my expenses for me, my wife, and my son. That was it at the time. And I said, we'll be there. Absolutely. I was like, Jesus, send more destination weddings our way. That's the only one we've ever been on. So here we are. We're doing the wedding. Now, this is a beautiful wedding right on the, come on now. It's gorgeous. We're there. And they're like Ken and Barbie, good-looking couple. I'm just really enjoying it. Malachi's with, I think we got a picture up here. I had a lot more hair. It was a little higher then and a little fuller, a lot darker. Malachi was a lot younger, and here's this couple. And so we're at this part, and I believe that when I do a wedding, I always encourage the Christian couple to take, after they say their vows, to take a moment to do communion. Why is that important? Because I want the very first act as a husband and wife to say Jesus is first from the beginning. And so here I am. I talked to the maitre d' before this month. Now, it's beautiful. Now, what's interesting is Ellen and Levon, who are still friends of ours today, Levon's family, his mother is in the front. Hey, when's this going to be over? Am I lying? I'm not lying. Hey! It got so intense at one point that the bride said, can you please? I'll say it nicer. Can you please be quiet? Okay. But here we are, and I'm at this sacred moment of Holy Communion. I asked the maitre d', can you make sure I have a glass of red wine and some nice bread so that we could literally have this moment? I didn't bring it with me from New York, you know what I'm saying? And so they set it up kind of like this. And so I'm doing this communion. On the night Jesus was betrayed, he took bread and he broke it, and I pulled out a hot dog bun. Now, am I lying? I'm not lying. I mean, I learned this in Bible college. When you're lying, you're frying. Trust me, this is the truth. I literally pull out a hot dog bun, and I'm like, I'm looking for cameras thinking, this is some kind of joke. And then Ellen and Levon start laughing. And I have to bring the rest of the wedding into what's happening. And I literally say, guys, you're not going to believe this, but the maitre d' brought me this. Everybody laughed for a moment. We ended up doing communion. It was probably one of the most interesting moments to any wedding I've ever been invited to. There's a few, but those are Mary's stories. Let me ask you a question today. Where have you invited Jesus? I think what we've learned in our world today is to compartmentalize Jesus. We can put him in certain parts of our life. We can have Jesus, man, Jesus, you're number one on Sundays, but Monday, man, it's about work. No, my work is worship. My work is worship. I can worship God. The people that amen are the ones that read the devotional this week. Come on, 21 days. If you're not reading it, 445 people have downloaded and are doing a devotional with us right now. Don't be the one that's not doing it. Do it with us. Where have you invited Jesus? It's easy to invite Jesus on Sundays because we're all together. It's easy to invite Jesus into certain parts. Did you invite Jesus into your money? Did you invite Jesus into your marriage? Did you invite Jesus into your friendship circles? Where have you invited Jesus? The Bible goes on to say, the wine supply ran out during the festivities. Now, come on, all the Italians are like, are you kidding me? I mean, we don't have wine. There's no party. So Jesus' mother looks at Jesus and says, they have no more wine. This is an interesting story, right? Here's what you got to grab from this. This is a very important principle. If you're writing anything down, get this. Jesus was invited to the party, but not the problem. How do we know that? Because the very next line says this, dear woman. Now, if I talk to my mother like that, come on. You imagine your mother telling you to do, yo, woman, what's up? Like, who do you think you are? Would not go over very well. Dear woman, that's not our problem. My time has not come. Now, think about this. Jesus is the solution to every problem, but in this moment, he looks at mom and says, are you kidding me? Like, seriously, Mom, I'm here for the party. I can tell you this as a pastor, that's so true. How many times I go to places and I'm just there for the celebrations? Mayor, right? We go there just to, hey, let's just enjoy this. And someone inadvertently wants to ask us a question. Pastor, do you have 1 minute, Pastor? I'm like, oh, here it goes. Anytime someone says, do you have 1 minute, what they really mean, do you have an hour? Because I'm about to ask you a question that I can't get to you on Sunday. So while you're at this family event, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask you now because it's the perfect time. So I can imagine how Jesus, he's like, Mom, I literally was invited to the wedding. That's not my issue. That's the maitre d's issue. But catch this. I think too many people are sending someone else to Jesus with their problem instead of going to Jesus themselves. You notice Mary went to her son to ask for the miracle to be changed. The bridal party didn't go. Mary represented them. Now, I find it more important for me to go to Jesus for my own issues than somebody else. I don't care how anointed a preacher is. I don't care how anointed a pastor is. They will not pray with the same passion I am praying for my life. Because when you're going through it, right? You're literally like, man, God, I need you to show up. I need you to do something in my life. But you go to a pastor and go, Lord, I pray right now. You just bless them, give them faith and eyes to see, encourage their spirit. Well, there are times, honestly, those are great prayers. But when I go to God, I'm going to God screaming. Because I'm a shouter. I'm a vein-popping preacher. I'm also a vein-popping prayer. Like, I literally, when I'm going to God, I'm going all in with God. I'm saying, God, here I am. This is what I need. I need you to show up. Are you listening, McFly? You know, are you there? Are you hearing me? When your supply runs out, when the supply of those who are around you run out, you got to go to your source. See, Mary knew the source for the supply. Nobody else in that room knew until, not my problem. Mary says, I don't care from their child. Come on, moms. Did you do your homework? No. Why not? Why are you waiting till the end of the day? Did you take your shower yet? No. Why not? Moms have the insatiable desire to look through your no to get what they want anyway. Come on, moms. I'm just saying. They could say no to Dad any day of the week because I know it. But when mom speaks, it's better than E.F. Hutton. Let me tell you, it is literally mom's, oh, geez, I'm in trouble. It's true. Mom ends up speaking in this situation. Says, no, just do whatever he tells you to do because a mother never takes no for an answer. What they find 6 stone jars. And they're usually used for the ceremony washing within the Jewish culture. But there's 6 there, but their 6 are all empty. There's nothing in them for anything. And Jesus literally says, hey, see those 6 jars over there? I want you to fill them with water. Now, number one, I'm thinking, I'm out of wine. You're having me take water and put it in a stone jar that's used for washing, certainly not for drinking. Sometimes, hear this today, sometimes we want God to use us one way, and God's saying, I made you for another way. I made you for another purpose. So here's what ends up happening. Jesus ends up taking some water. He picks it up, and he pours it while the servants pour it into a jar. Pour it into this jar, pour a little bit here. They're filling up these jars, which contain, the Bible says, about 20 to 30 gallons of water. So they're filling all of them up, and obviously I don't have enough water, but they fill up all these jars with water. Here's what the scripture says it this way. Fill the jars with water, and when the jars had been filled, he said, now dip some out and take to the master of ceremonies for the servant, and the servants followed his instructions. So imagine with me if all of a sudden, you literally walked into an environment. Come on, now that was better than some of you are clapping. I'm just saying. You walked into an environment where water was poured in, but wine came out. I think you'd be celebrating a lot more than that. Fresh. I mean, think about that, right? Come on now. I mean, you see how excited some of you got? Like, imagine if you were in that environment and the wine was out, and then all of a sudden some guy named Jesus, who didn't record any miracles up until this point, because this was his first miracle, all of a sudden he says, hey, in these wash basins that you normally use to clean your feet, I want you to take some water and fill those 6 up with about 20 to 30 gallons each of water. And then poof, when they dipped in their goblet, wine came out. I don't know about you, but if I was in that moment, I'd be like, the Italians can come back to the wedding. The wine is here. Just saying. And let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt empty? Like you're sitting in the story of God's plan for your life, and you're saying, God, I want you to use my life. I want to make a difference in this world. I just don't want to make a splash. I want to make an impact in people's lives. Hear me today. This is important. If you want to be used by God, you must first be filled by Him. You can go through life empty and void of passion and feeling, but the wine was not produced until there was first a filling. Something must have been put into those objects of stone to produce wine. I wonder sometimes if some of us are sitting there empty and God's saying, I want to fill you, and you're saying, with what? Instead of like Jesus' mother said to the servants, do whatever He tells you to do. So all of a sudden, if God told you, I want you to quit your job and go on the mission field, what would most of us do? Wait a minute, God, I need to calculate how I could afford that. Is that not true? Hey, I want you to take what's in your checking account right now and give it to that homeless person over there. I know most of us would think, well, he's just going to drink it away. Let's be honest. I don't think we like to have real talk unless it's about somebody else instead of me. That's most of our thought. It's literally like, oh man, poor, hungry, sitting on the side of the road. Well, they're probably making about $30,000 a year in money from change. That's what most people do. Now, Mary's helped me reformat my thinking on that, honestly. We see someone that doesn't have money, I don't ask, why don't you have money? My mission is give them money. If I got it in my pocket, if we have something, we're going to give it away because the Bible says you're more blessed when you give than when you receive. So I'm not going to judge someone for where they're at. I'm still working on it. So if you see me driving by somebody and I don't do it, please, I probably just don't have cash on me. Don't judge me. Empty jars become useful when Jesus fills them. If you want your life to be useful to God, you've got to allow Jesus to fill your life. Until Jesus fills you, there's nothing usable in those jars. They're just stone jars. Last verse in John 2. It says, when the master of the ceremonies tasted the water that was now wine, bottoms up. When he tasted it, he literally said, he goes to the bridegroom and says this, a host always saves the best wine first, or uses it. But you have kept the best wine until now. Why was it the best wine? Because Jesus produced it. Jesus always produces the best in your life, for your life, and through your life. Can I get a witness or something in the house? He will always produce the best for your life, in your life, and through your life. Some of them were like, man, but God, I'm running on empty. And God says, wait a minute. All you need is a little bit of my water put in your stone heart and watch what I produce. I wonder how many of us are saying, no, God, but don't fill me with water. I want the wine to start. Fill me with wine and I'm good. Here's the reality about Jesus. Jesus doesn't always give you what you want or what you think is best. He will always give you what He wants and what He knows is best for your life. And in this moment, there's so many principles that God is teaching to each and every one of us. Because there will be times in our life where we will never know where the miracle came from, just like the master of ceremonies. Notice the master of ceremonies, the MC, the host that's running this party, had no idea where the best wine came from. He assumed it came from the bride and groom. He said, you have saved the best for last. Here's the reality. There will be times in your life where people will say to you and they will try and give you credit for what God has done. Man, you've done this and you've done that. And boy, look at how great you are. And you can literally say, that's all right. I don't need to say it. I don't need to shout it. I know who did this work in and through my life. It was God, all Him, only Him. And so here he is, all of a sudden the master of ceremonies is saying, I don't know where this wine came from, but this is the good stuff. This is the Italian Irish alcohol. This is the bomb. Literally at that point, you would think, man, how does this guy not know? This guy knows what happens. And you got married on Long Island. Let me tell you, the maitre d' knows what's happening in the room. Can I tell you this? In the spiritual life, not everyone around you will always know what's happening in your life and in the room of your heart. God is stirring and shifting and changing things in your life all the time. In fact, there will be times in your life when you don't even know where the miracle came from. Not just the master of ceremonies don't know, but you might not even know. The bride and groom, here's what's interesting. The bridal party didn't say, hey, Mr. Master of Ceremonies, excuse me, sir, that wasn't us. I thought that was you. No, they just drank the wine. To me, at the end of the day, I don't care where the miracle comes from. I don't care how God provides it. I don't care what God has to do. I want to sit there and say, thank you, Jesus. Here's the power of that. Without an invitation, you can't drink the wine Jesus produces either. The only people that drank the wine in that moment were those who were invited to that wedding celebration. Let me tell you, there is a celebration that God invites you to. It's called the Church of Jesus Christ. It is something so powerful and uniting that the world can't get what happens within the church. They don't understand how a church can have rich and poor people in it and get along. They don't understand how black, white, Latino, Asian, and the list could go on and on, how they could come into one building and get along. The world does not understand how those who believe like we do and those who don't can still walk into this building and get along. What they have yet to discover is the power of the work of Jesus Christ in people's lives. Until they discover that, there is no hope for the world. I love how I was introduced to one person yesterday. He said, oh, this is Pastor Bishop, which always makes me feel old, but this is Pastor Bishop. He leads a multi-ethnic, generationally diverse church. I love that. In fact, we came up with a new slogan. Here's my ADD going on. Came up with a new slogan. How many of you know a church alive is? Here's a new one. A church with power is worth more than just 1 hour. Just saying. Church with power is worth more than just 1 hour. I got to get to my dinner. I got to run here. When Jesus is moving, you ain't going to want to run anywhere. You're going to want to taste the wine. You want to see what God is doing. I like that. Hey. So let me give you just a couple principles really quick. They'll pop up on the screen from the first miracle of Jesus. Number one is this. God always uses the ordinary. God uses the ordinary. Why? To prove that it was all him. God says, I use the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. I use those things that everyone else throws away, and like water that we take so for granted in America today, clean drinking water. Come on, are you thankful for clean drinking water? A huge part of our world today does not drink what we drink, and we yet take it for granted. We use it for toilets, and most of them use clean water for drinking. It's interesting, right, how the rest of the world lives. A.W. Tozer said this, I love this. God is looking for people through whom he can do the impossible. What a pity that we only plan the things that we can do by ourselves. I think you need to let that sit in. God is looking for people through whom he can do the impossible. What a pity that we only plan the things we can do by ourselves. God's saying, hey, I'm going to take 2 everyday ordinary things. I'm going to take stone jars and water, and I'm going to show you my power. Even though I wasn't invited to the problem, I was invited to the party, I'll still be your solution. Even when we don't bring Jesus into those seasons of our life, God will still find a way to show up in those seasons of our lives. Water into wine, that's not normal, but he used what was ordinary. He used what was there already. Some of us are looking for God to add something to our lives instead of looking, God, what have you already put in my life? That was good. It's not just about, hey, God, if you give me this job, I will praise you. No, God's not going to give you that job till you praise him first. It always starts with the right heart, the right attitude, the right thought. You can't expect God to give you what you want or need or what he desires for you if you're constantly saying, God, I want it my way. I want it this way. And God's saying, no, have it my way, because if you do it his way, watch what God does in your life, the doors he opens up for you, the things God allows you to see, and the miracles you get to experience in your life. God uses the ordinary. I say this all the time, but I'm just a boy from Buffalo. Single parent home, multi-divorce situation. We grew up where we were excited about Kmart's blue light specials because we knew that meant clothes. We got hand-me-downs. We used the food pantry for us to have food within our home. And today I'm thankful for what God has done in my life. I never could imagine that God would take this ordinary kid who almost got kicked out of Bible college, not once, but twice. Some of you are like, man, I've got to go to another church. And yet I remember when Gary Brugman, when I was about to be kicked out of my Bible college, he said this, and I'll never forget these words of Gary. He said, I see something in him. I was like, that was the second time in my life I ever heard those words. The first was from my youth pastor, John Sotero. The second was from another spiritual father, Gary Brugman. So I see something in him. I didn't even see it in me. And yet somebody else saw it. And that's why I call out the seeds of greatness in people that don't see it for themselves. That's why I look at people and say, God can still do more in you than you can ever imagine, because someone pulled it out of me. I want to pull it out of people. And I don't even know what I'm talking. God uses the ordinary. He uses everyday ordinary people. He's not looking for the superstar. Superstars crash and burn all the time. He is looking for servants that are willing to say, God, I will do whatever you tell me to do. What is God telling you to do today? God wants to use the ordinary. Second principle you learn is, with God, empty is still plenty. God doesn't need your life to be complete and perfect for him to use you. He says, just come to me as you are. You may feel like you're just a stone jar today. You may feel like, man, I don't know how God can ever use me. God says, you just show up at the party and let me pour my living water into your life and watch what I produce in and through you. That's why I love people that come to our church from all different walks of their faith life. Some new, some who started here skeptical, but God transformed their life. Stone jars, empty, and yet God filled them. I heard this expression growing up. In church, little is much when God is in it. God doesn't need a ton of you. He just needs a little bit of you. And when he gets a little bit of you, he takes and transforms your life in ways you can never, ever imagine. With God, empty is still plenty. Third principle, our problems often reveal God's power. Everybody wants to see a miracle, but nobody wants to experience it themselves. The only way to experience a miracle is to be in a problem. I want to see God do the improbable and impossible. And that means I've got to put myself sometimes in people's problems. I've got to position my life in places with people who need a miracle of God. I can't just run with the stallions. I've got to also run with the donkeys. Too many of us, we flip it around and say, man, and I do believe you got to check your circle, know who you're running with. But I think when we're only wanting to run with a certain group, a certain breed, a certain style, we're missing out on who Jesus was. Jesus ran with everyday, ordinary people, from the tax collector to the fisherman, to the prostitute, to the woman caught in adultery. You go down the list of who Jesus ran with, and yet I don't know if I want to be with that person. I think they're a Republican. Democrat. At the end of the day, who cares what party you're with? I care who's got my soul. And that's Jesus. And that should be the common bond. I think so often we miss it in this life. See, our problems often reveal God's power when you're going through something. Anybody going through anything right now? Come on, I'll put my hand up. You are a prime candidate for a miracle of God. You're in a position for God to say, wait a minute, I did a miracle, my first one at a wedding in Cana in Galilee, and I can perform hundreds right now in Comac, New York. All it takes is for someone to believe that when that water is poured into the stone of their life, God will produce a wine through them, because wine tasted and tested. 5 years to ferment on average, and the real good stuff, 10 to 15 years, and I'm not even a drinker. 10 to 15 years. Think about how God sped up the fermentation process. I just popped in my head. Think about this. He made the best wine in a second that humanity would have had to take 10 to 15 years. Some of you have been trying to fix your problems, fix your way out of them for 10 years, and God is saying, would you stop, settle yourself, and let me pour my living water on you? Watch how quickly God ferments your life. And then final principle is this. Never forget, Jesus is always the source. He's always the source. For everything you ever go through, everything you ever need, He is the source. Yeah, but my job is the source of income. No. Who gave you the skill to get that job? Who gave you the talent? Who opened the doors? Who positioned you? It was God. He is always your source. He's your source in your job. He's your source in your relationships. Oh, but I'm still single and searching. Rather have you single and searching than married and miserable. Come on now. Oh, but I'm just not satisfied with my spouse. It'd be nice to just try someone else's spouse. We're Christians. This ain't wife swap. Hello? Don't just get to put once you're in. Listen, you're married, you're buried. It's done, it's over. That's for life. Hello? Just saying. Work it out, because if you can't work out your married problems in this marriage, trust me, you ain't going to work it out in your next marriage either. Literally, work it out today. Find a way. He wants to be the source in your marriage. He wants to be the source in your health. Anybody struggling with health issues? I do. But you know what? I always pray, God, man, today I thank you. I'm healed, I'm healthy, I'm whole. I'm healed, I'm healthy, I'm whole. I will declare it till my body lines up with it. I'm not going to walk in my sickness. I'm going to walk in the confidence that God has for our lives. And that should be all of us, right? Whatever we go through, God, I'm walking in the confidence of my faith. I'm walking in who I am, but more importantly, I'm walking in whose I am. John chapter 2, verse 11 says this, crazy. This miraculous sign at Cana in Galilee was the first time Jesus revealed His glory. First time. Now listen to this next. And His disciples believed in Him. They followed at first without full belief. Jesus called them, follow me. They dropped their nets. They knew there was something different about Him. They're pursuing Him. But right here, notice the word and. It's a conjunction. It's not separate thoughts. It's adjoining thoughts. He's saying this first miracle where Jesus showed His glory was the moment that the disciples now believed. Let me tell you this, church. Grab this in your spirit today. Do not wait your entire lifetime to believe. You're just following. I go to church on Sunday, leave church, live like the devil Monday, think of this here, do this here, run here. No, sorry, camera people. So literally at the end of the day, you should literally be like this. You should be like, Jesus, you saved me. You provide eternity for me. I'm not going to wait to believe. I'm not just going to go through my faith in motion. I'm going to go through my faith in reality and believe and trust in you. His disciples believe when they see a miracle. Every day you wake up, you are a living, breathing miracle of God. Every day you're alive, you're a miracle of God. And that's why each of us have to accept the invitation of God into the ordinary parts of our lives. Every area of our life. Even when you show up at a wedding and you get a hot dog bun. Even when you show up and you see a miracle where God turns the water into wine. No matter where you are, whether you're at work, whether you're at school, whether you're in church, whether you're at the grocery store, whether you're sitting in your car on the LIE, it's 86 degrees out and your air conditioning's broken. And you're out there, you can literally say, God, how can you use me in this moment? How can you use me here? I was telling Jamie really quick, I was telling Jamie as I'm leaving this week, she was coming in, and so I said, hey, I got to make phone calls. For the next half hour, all I do is make phone calls on my way home because I don't waste a minute. There are people that need a touch from God, a moment, a conversation, input and counseling. So I don't sit there, let me blast some music. Let me listen. No, it's literally, let me redeem this moment that I have driving from here to my house, 24 minutes. Let me redeem that. Every moment of your life matters. Every second is significant because every second is an opportunity for God to turn your water into His wine. You are a miracle waiting to happen. God wants to explode in your life in so many incredible ways. And today, accept His invitation and watch how when you're invited to the party, your problems become opportunities for God to work in and through your life. Would you close your eyes as we pray this morning?